Welcome back to the channel. Racer X here, and I am back with my good buddies in Lewisville at the Lewisville Autoplex because they had two cars literally that just came off of transport, and they make for a really interesting comparison. It's one you guys have been asking me to do for a little while, and today, guess what? I have both cars together, same place, same time, both basically brand new. I'm really looking forward to showing you this little comparison. Also, guys, if you're new to my channel, do me a big, gigantic favor. There's a subscribe button down here at the bottom. Go ahead and hit that for me. I would really appreciate it. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, and we are off. So another car that they actually just took in up here at Lewisville Autoplex is this M3. I tell you what, this is a very cool looking car. Look at the inside of this thing. Look at the seats on this thing. It's pretty darn cool. And of course, this is a manual car as well, but a really sharp looking spec on this M3. I'm actually kind of a fan. Don't know if I like the front of it, but I love the inside of that thing. Check it out. This car actually used to belong to one of my subscribers, the subscriber that bought that blue Superstock. Actually traded in his wide body Challenger Hellcat, a beautiful car, red and black, of course, Racer X red. Absolutely love the spec on this, but there's a couple other beautiful cars out here as well. Never short on inventory here at Lewisville Autoplex. So let's head back, and I will finally show you what I've been trying to compare. So if you like Corvettes, these guys, they just have quite the lineup here, but the one I really wanted to show you just really quick, check out this bad boy down here at the end. What a gorgeous car this is. Just give you a real quick look at this. That is absolutely stunning. I really do like this black and red, of course. And of course, check out the interior. What a nice car this is. I love it. Right behind me are the cars that I really wanted to show you today. Two gorgeous specimens. The white car behind me is a Challenger wide body Redeye. And of course, the other one here, that is a gorgeous car. That is a Superstock, one of 11 made in that color. That's a cinnamon stick with black. And so you've got the Superstock versus the Redeye. What are the differences between these two cars? They look very similar from the outside, but there are some key differences between these two, and they actually drive a little bit different. So let's jump into it. So I want to just give you a little bit better look at both of these two gorgeous cars. As you can see from the hood perspective, they're identical, really. I mean, this one actually has the factory hood pins, which is a factory option, but you can see the Superstock, very rare, this car right here. Like I said, one of 11 made with this color combination. An unbelievably beautiful car, and you'll notice the stance on these two cars is a little bit different. I mean, like I said, they're both have huge horsepower. They're both essentially like Redeyes, except, you know, this one, like I said, is called a Superstock, but they both have the Redeye badge on the side, like you can see right here. Wheels are quite a bit different. I will jump into that a little bit. I do want to show you kind of the interior of both of these two cars really quick, but both of these two cars are absolutely gorgeous. This one has the black interior, which I will show you. There you go. This has got that black interior as with all the Redeyes and Superstocks. You're gonna get that carbon weave here in the middle. Very driver centric on all the Challengers, but just a really nice interior on this car. And as we jump over to the white car, the Redeye, you can see this one has an interior I absolutely love. It's got the red interior in it. So take a quick look at this. Like I said, you basically have kind of that same carbon weave, actually a little bit different on the carbon weave on this one, but beautiful red seats, as you can see. You do have the Hellcat there on the back, and a really nice place to sit in both these cars. So these two cars, the Redeye and the Superstock, are extremely similar. Really, this one is kind of made for the road in my mind. This one here is basically like a Demon. It's basically made for the drag strip, but it does have great street manners as well. So when you look at the engine on these two, they are basically identical. 6.2 liter, it's an iron block, aluminum heads with the 2.7 liter supercharger sitting on top. In this particular one, the Redeye, 797 horsepower, and due to a little bit different engine calibration, This one is basically exact same motor, exact same blower, intake, all that kind of stuff. A little bit different tune on this one, makes 807 horsepower. So a 10 horsepower difference between obviously the Redeye and the Superstock. And one of the other key things about these two cars in terms of the difference, as I mentioned, this one is more geared towards drag racing. So as you can see, the wheels are different and the brakes are different on these two cars. So this particular one, you do get the NT05 R Nittos right here, and these are 18-inch, similar to like what you would find on the stock Demon. And then as you jump over here to the Redeye, you get the 20-inch wheels. These are all-season Pirellis. So a completely different setup on the wheels on these two vehicles. Like I said, this one is really engineered for drag strip driving. This one is more engineered for just being on the road. Also, there is a difference in the suspension on these two cars. Both feature Bilstein shocks, but this particular one obviously has softer suspension on it to help it transfer the weight at the drag strip. This one, not quite so much, but you do have a little bit more adaptability on this particular one, being that it's got the dynamic drive modes in it as well, so you can actually set this one up a little bit better for the street. So a lot of people have asked me, Racer X, how can you tell the difference just at first glance between a Redeye and a Superstock? Really, it's just the wheels. I mean, you can definitely see a difference in the wheels. They've got Demon style wheels on this particular car, but both of them do have that Redeye badge right there on the side, as you can see. And both of these cars are extremely striking. This, of course, you can get the Redeye in both a wide body and a non-wide body, I should say. But of course, the Superstock only comes in a wide body. So another little characteristic there. So it really is an interesting comparison between the Redeye and the Superstock. Almost identical, these two cars, when you really kind of look at everything in its entirety, but they're really built for two different things. So let's go ahead and take these things for a drive and see if they drive any different. So now I am aboard the Challenger Hellcat Redeye wide body, and I have to admit that when you get in these Mopars, it is just amazing how comfortable they really are. I absolutely love how soft the leather is in these cars, and just a very, very comfortable place to sit. And just sitting here, you would have absolutely no idea this thing is as capable as it is, with almost 800 horsepower. What a great car to sit in. The visibility in these things is good as it is in all the Challengers. I mean, you can see pretty well out of it. You do see that long hood sticking out in front of you, obviously, with those two almost nostrils, kind of like the old Trans Am used to be. But a really, really nice place to sit in this. And obviously the Superstock, no different. They sit basically identical. But I want to go ahead and show you what the driving position looks like, and we'll take it down the road. So here is a quick look at the driving position in the Hellcat Redeye. As you can see, I do love the red interior on this. You can see the red kind of on the door panels here as well. Gorgeous gauges in this, as always. Of course, you got that nice thick SRT steering wheel. And then, of course, as we jump over here, we've got that central infotainment screen there. And just a really, really comfortable place to sit. Very familiar to me, obviously. You can see the SRT over there on that far end with the Redeye in the in the actual badge there itself. But, of course, you do have a very driver-centric driving position in the Challenger. And of course, I do, as I mentioned, I do really like this kind of carbon weave here in the middle. And of course, there you've got your passenger side, and you do have functional back seats in this, a little bigger than, say, a Mustang or a Camaro. So nice place to sit. I will say I absolutely love shooting at both the Hearst and the Lewisville Autoplex. I don't know where they find these cars. This car is basically mint. Both these two cars are mint condition. This car has like 200 miles on it. It is essentially brand new. It smells so good in this car. I just got to throw that out there. I absolutely love, I don't know how they find these cars, but they get them from all over the place. This is not a factory dealership, obviously. This is a dealership that sells all makes and models of performance stuff, which makes it really fun for me. But anyway, what a gorgeous specimen this Redeye is. The great thing about this Redeye is that it has such perfect street manners. I mean, it really does drive nice. I'm sitting here just cruising along very comfortably. It's absorbing bumps really nice. It feels very planted on the road. It is kind of interesting because, you know, even though this has more horsepower than, say, a Durango Hellcat, it's actually not as fast in terms of how it's rated from 0 to 60. I think it's like 3.7 or something like that, which is still unbelievably fast, but it's just limited by traction. This thing makes so much power. And of course, you have all-season tires on the back of it, so I could literally just blow these tires off essentially whenever I wanted to. But just listen to it when I get on it a little bit. Oh, it is so satisfying. Oh my gosh. And we are in the ridiculous speeds already. So it doesn't even have to work to get up here. And it just puts a huge grin on your face when you're driving a car like this. Like I said, this one is really the one that's kind of built for everyday driving, being on the road. And I mean, you could literally just get in this thing and drive to California and be unbelievably comfortable. And you've got your dynamic drive modes. You can set this thing to 500 horsepower if you want to. Lots of different configurability with the Redeye, which makes it great. Another kind of little interesting bit about the difference between a Redeye and a Superstock is the Superstock comes with 309 gearing. You saw that in my old Hellcat that I had. I moved to the 309 gear. I switched it out. The Redeye, you have some configurability there. You can factory order a 309 or a 262, which is kind of neat as well. So just another little difference. So just cruising around, I mean, the Redeye really does feel almost identical to a just kind of the normal Hellcat. I mean, you can hear the blower under there. It doesn't really sound any louder to me than the normal Hellcat does. It behaves basically identical to a normal Hellcat. Now, when you go to kind of tip in, you do feel just a slight amount of difference. Obviously, this being a bigger blower, a 2.7 versus a normal Hellcat with a 2.4 liter supercharger. And this actually has a little bit more boost from the factory. It's like 14.5 pounds versus 11 pounds in a normal Hellcat. And of course, there's a horsepower difference. What's it, like 80 horsepower? And you do feel it when you go to tip in just a little bit. And gosh, the sound of this thing is so addicting. I love it. The Redeye really is just a great everyday driving machine with that Jekyll and Hyde personality, where you could just be super chill, or you could absolutely get down with the amount of power this thing has and just blow the tires off absolutely whenever you want to. So just what a great ride the Hellcat Redeye is. So let's jump over to the Superstock and see if it really drives any different. So now I am actually aboard the Challenger Superstock, and it really does feel just identical. Unbelievably comfortable seats. Of course, these are black versus the other one that had red seats in it. The carbon weave here is just a little bit different, a little bit tighter pattern on the carbon weave in here. Otherwise, the inside of this thing, it looks identical. So let's really, the big test is going to be to see if it drives any different. Obviously, this one being built more for drag racing versus the other that's more made for just the regular road driving. So let's see. Something very cool about this particular Superstock is a lot of people don't even realize this. It's like I said, it's basically a Demon without the Demon crate. I mean, 807 horsepower. Basically, it makes identical to what the Demon did without the crate in it. 807 versus 808. I really do think there's absolutely no difference. I just kind of named it 807 versus 808. But this is actually more rare than a Demon is, believe it or not. I mean, they just almost didn't make hardly any of the Superstock. And get this car, as I mentioned before, is one of 11 made. And this car has 35 miles on it. It is brand new. And so I'm not going to put a ton of miles on it, but I do want to kind of just get a driving feel for it. And if you're in the market for a Superstock, this one is absolutely perfect. So just cruising around in the Superstock, I really don't feel much difference. I have to admit, there's a couple of little bumps here in the road that I'm kind of going over right now. The car does feel maybe slightly more floaty. I guess that's the term for it. It just does. It kind of feels a little bit more floaty on the road than the regular Redeye does. But I don't really feel a whole lot of difference. When I go to accelerate in it, oh yeah. And it feels identical to the Redeye. It really doesn't feel any different in terms of acceleration. Now, what I will say is that, you know, the tires here, I feel like do make a difference. This is a stickier tire with a bigger sidewall, so it doesn't feel like this one wants to spin quite as readily as the Redeye does. The Redeye, you can almost feel right when it wants to kind of break traction. This one feels like that limit is maybe just a little bit higher with the way it transfers the weight. Even on the street, you can feel it's maybe just a little bit more sticky, this car. Now, it's kind of as I expected. The white car, the Redeye, actually had the optional 309 gear in it, just like this car has. So when it comes to acceleration, 10 horsepower, you simply aren't going to feel it. It's a drop in the bucket when you talk about the kind of power that these two cars make. So very similar in terms of acceleration. The sound is basically identical. Fantastic. Like I said, just a little bit of a difference in the grip and a little bit of a difference in kind of the ride, the way this one feels a little bit more floaty. Now, because this does have factory drag radials on it, you're not going to get nearly the wear out of the tires on this one that you will get in the normal Redeye. So there's always that little trade-off. So earlier I talked about the engine calibration. Why is there a 10 horsepower difference between the two when the engines are basically identical? Well, this one actually makes about 100 more RPM from the factory than the Redeye does. That is the difference. So, you just don't feel it when you're driving it under normal circumstances, and really even when you're getting on it. But I will say that, gosh, this thing feels amazing when you're driving it. Listen to it. Oh wow, we're already really up to the speed here, so we're gonna have to be careful. So this one puts a huge smile on your face. I am a big fan of the Superstock. I really do like this car. So I've actually heard the criticism quite a bit that the Superstock and the Demon really just don't have the road manners of the Redeye. They're just not as great to drive on the street, but I would tend to disagree with that. I mean, yes, it does have kind of a little bit of a sort of like a Lincoln Town Car type feel to it, just kind of rolling around when it's going over bumps and stuff like that, but I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing because it does still feel really planted with the drag radials on it. Like I said, I mean, you're gonna not get as much wear out of the tires, but that's part of the game. You're making over 800 horsepower with this thing, but I think the road manners on the Superstock are fantastic. I really do. I'm a big fan. All right, so after driving both cars, I have to freely admit, I mean, they are unbelievably similar. Yes, they're built for different purposes, but they're both absolutely great. So whether you're thinking about buying a Superstock or a Redeye, I mean, you just really can't go wrong with either one. For me, I know which one I would pick, but I'm not necessarily going to say. I don't want to sway you in any particular direction. Me being a gearhead and the kind of person that I am, I know which one I would like, but I mean, I just absolutely love both of these two cars. Like I said, extremely similar, but there are some key differences between these two, but they will both put a huge smile on your face. So I'm a big fan of really both the Redeye and the Superstock. Well, that actually wraps up my comparison between the Challenger Hellcat Redeye wide body and of course the Challenger Superstock. Two absolutely fantastic cars. Beautiful at both of these two cars. Some of the cleanest examples of these two cars I have ever seen. Super low miles on these things. They're basically brand new and just gorgeous. A ton of fun to drive. So which one would you guys actually pick? The Redeye or the Superstock? There's really no right or wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments down below and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, Racer X.